Thank you all. So happy to be in Atlanta. It's my favorite city to go to because I get to wear this all the time. I've had the biggest debates ever. That's the World Series ring. Really pisses off people. John Charles and I used to have big conversations about World Series. He was always a fan of let's make the playoffs every year. I was a fan of I don't care, I just want rings. So one of the things I talk about in Atlanta, you guys have won 2 rings since '95 when the Marlins were born, and we've won the same 2 rings. So, well, welcome. This is going to be a live edition of Nothing Personal. So this is going to be released. It is going to be seen. I appreciate that you're here. You don't have to react. You can react. You can be happy. You can be sad. You can laugh. You can ignore. You can do anything you want because Coca will just edit you out if any reaction is negative. This is the first show I've not done with Coca. So before we start, I actually need a Coca in the audience. And here's what the job is. It's actually very simple. You can volunteer or not. It's if I lose my place, you have to yell out what I was talking about because I lose my place all the time. If you feel like I need to move on from a conversation, from a subject, you have to yell that out. Pretend you're in my ear. And if anything happens during the course of the show, so if your phones are out, I encourage phones. I encourage connectivity because sometimes shit just happens. Like the Philadelphia show, Bryce Harper hit 3 home runs in the middle of a show in Philadelphia, and I was doing a whole segment about the fact that he couldn't hit. So anything can happen during the course of a show, so I need someone to do that. So doesn't matter who volunteers because I'm just going to call on somebody. All right, with the phone. What's your name? I didn't hear you. Duty? Like call of? All right. Is that your real name? Oh, it's your last name. I said, what's your name? I didn't. Hi, I'm Samson. Would expect that you'd say your first name. Okay. Before we start the show, I got one more thing for you. So I'm backstage. It's so good to be in Atlanta. I really do love it here. I just want to say one funny story about Atlanta that most of you know if you're from here. The thing about when you get to Atlanta is that the airport is an absolute nightmare. And I have to tell you a story of what happened to me because this is a true story. I have no traveling crew with me. The people backstage can't believe that it's just me. I'm solo. My rider is very simple. I need tissues, a towel, bottles of water. That's it. The Gaviscon I don't have I carry my own. Thank you. I have candy in the back as well. I have my own candy. I bring my own stuff because I'm not going to although the guy who did the tour and is promoting it for me told me that I should be doing way more stuff, like getting my own furniture and getting the furniture arranged in different ways, having a spread of food. That seems a little much. I'm perfectly fine, but I bring my own stuff and I carry my own stuff. And I was in the Atlanta airport, and yes, I got on the wrong train, which really pissed me off because I was trying to beat the train. And as you know from your airport, you can walk instead of taking the train. You can walk in the hall in the passageway, and you go from B to A, and then from A to T, and then from T to ground transportation. So my view has always been, hey, I'm in shape. I can do it. And I had a horrible epiphany yesterday, which is I am old. And it was bad. My legs were hurting. My back was hurting. And I got on the train at A. I've never done that before. It did not make me happy. Okay. Did you guys see the solar eclipse today? Yeah, neither did I. Here's the thing. I did get people trying to sell me sunglasses, but they look like Cracker Jack sunglasses. I have my own sunglasses. I was told those aren't good enough. And then everyone's sending photos. It's all over Twitter. You feel like a loser for not caring, but I don't care. I mean, it's cool. The moon covers the sun. It makes sort of sense in a rotational way. Not enough. People are schlepping everywhere to go see it. Like, are you in totality? No, I'm in my room. Literally, that's what I'm doing. I'm watching a movie. Wasn't that into it. Jason Stark texted me. He's a baseball writer, a Hall of Famer. He was traveling to actually see the eclipse, and he said people around him were crying. No chance, toilet pants to crying. I cry, but only at movies. I don't think I'd cry in an eclipse. But he sent me a bunch of pictures saying, you've got to do it. No, I'm not going to do it. I have. You've seen one eclipse. You've seen them all. I actually, in 2017, there was an eclipse in New York. We were there. I think I was there for a game. I don't remember. We were staying at the old Parker Meridian. And I had, I don't remember what day the eclipse was. Maybe it was after the season or before the season. I don't remember. But I remember opening the curtain a little bit because I have some weird stuff when I get into a hotel room. I mean, not stuff that I can't talk about. I'll talk about anything. But I close the shades. I don't touch the remote. I've never turned on the TV in a hotel room. I don't sit on the furniture. I'm a germaphobe. I don't like germs. Now, there are times, I was in baseball for 18 years, and our traveling secretary, Bill Beck, and then Manny Colon, always made me a promise. These are two of the best gentlemen in the world. The promise was that every hotel room I stayed in, I was the first person to ever stay there, which is amazing because normally not. I did one time walk into a hotel room with a key, and there was someone in there. I changed hotels, forget rooms. I literally changed hotels. So I was in the hotel and I was getting ready and watching a movie and preparing for the show tonight and also preparing for Nothing Personal tomorrow. We do it live at 8 a.m. every single day, Monday to Friday. And I do it into the abyss. There's never anyone around. And so it was suggested to me, just go out, see what it's like to do it in front of 10 people or 30 people or 100 people, or just try it. And I've been on stage before. I don't mind it. I enjoy having everybody here. I'm thankful. I'm appreciative of your time. And we did a show this morning, and I'll wake up tomorrow morning and do another show before I fly out to Boston to do a live show in Boston on Wednesday. And so we love doing shows for you. And what we don't talk about is the preparation it takes. And I'm not looking for flowers. I just learned that expression. Someone said that Dawn Staley gave Caitlin Clark flowers. So stupid me, I'm just old. I was like, where did she get them? Like, what does that mean? I had never heard that before. So what it means is that props. So I'm not looking for props that I do all these shows because I'm addicted to you as much as so many people are addicted to me. And the audience started at 0 back in 2019. There was 2 downloads the first episode, October of 19. That's it. 2 downloads. But I acted as though there were 20,000 people listening, or 100,000 people, or 250,000 people. And every single day, I treat every day that seriously and every show that seriously. And I'm doing that tonight, as I'll do it in the morning, as I did it yesterday morning. So, Coco would tell me, all right, it's time to start. Here we go. Here we go. There's no music. There's usually music. I'm like Pavlov's dog. I'm used to the intro music. I'm used to something. Coca, he's not even here. Oh, that's right. It's Here You Go. Who's got that? All right, here I go. Here I go. CBS started with that music. Do you want to know the backstory of that music? It was free. That's how I got it on Nothing Personal. I wanted a whole intro, a whole selection. And the people at CBS said, hey, we're giving you your own show. Enjoy it. Here's your intro. They had me take a few photos. They said, come in one of your blazers. We'll take some headshots, and then we're going to put some music on it, and that'll be it. And I'm loyal in a very strange way for someone who's divorced, but I'm very loyal. And so that has been the intro since episode 1. It's something like, here you go, here you go. Here we go. Hold on. Okay. 4869. People ask me why I do that in between takes. Do you know the show is not edited at all? At all. Whatever mistakes I make, that is what you see every single day because I make mistakes. And thank you. It is not easy. It is just me talking for 45 minutes. Now it's 50 minutes because we're on DraftKings Network. I co-hosted the Rich Eisen show last week in LA. I didn't co-host it. I hosted it on my own. He was on vacation. It's a 3-hour show on the Roku channel. And I immediately sent a text to Lebitard. I said, he's got 50 fucking people doing his show. I can't get one person to help Coca. Mark it. Didn't mean to swear. It's true. He has a big staff of amazing people. It was such a great show. So professional. Everyone was so great. And it's unreal how lean the Lebitard show is, which we'll talk about later today. And because I love doing that. And the talent of Dan and his crew is beyond. Someone asked me in Philadelphia during the So You Want to Talk to Samson that show was available. It is available, just like this one will be. Someone asked me about the characters I play on Levitard. And it is true. I do play characters. 7:15. That's the Nothing Personal Word of the Night. Today is April 8th, 2015. But you're likely hearing this not on April 8th because we are live in Atlanta. Yeah. Did not plan for this, but going on right now, the Braves are playing the Mets, and today is the 50th anniversary of when Hank Aaron broke Babe Ruth's home run record. A seminal moment in Atlanta, in really all of sports and in history. Vin Scully on the call that night talked about how unbelievable it was, the ovation that Hank Aaron was getting, especially in the South. And I had no idea. I didn't remember this was the day. This day was given to me by the tour manager who said, you will be in Atlanta on April 8th. And then I realized it would be the day from where I get all my news, which is from my Elon Musk's Tesla. And it struck me as interesting because I'm not sure enough people understand that moment or understand what Hank Aaron went through. And I rarely flex about my career. No, that's not true. I had a great career in baseball, on Wall Street, delivering newspapers in Europe. I've done a ton of fun stuff over the course of my life, and now I'm in the media doing this show for you. I am incredibly blessed. There is no doubt about that, and we are going to keep going. Cough button? Anyone? Mute? I am not Venmoing Coca for a cough. I'll tell you that. My career, Hank Aaron, thank you. I got a chance to meet him and spend some time with him because his very close friend was Commissioner Bud Selig. And wherever Bud was, when Hank could be around for an opening day or the All-Star game or the playoffs, Hank would be around. And I also had an introduction to the Brewers because the first time I ever met the commissioner was actually with my girlfriend who became my wife, who became my ex-wife, who is the mother of my 3 amazing children, an amazing woman who some of you may know. And her father was the doctor for the Brewers, the team doctor, the orthopedic surgeon. So I got to go to games with who I thought was the most important, coolest person in the world, this girl's the father who was the doctor. And we got to go to the owner's suite. And I was 18 at the time. I was a kid. I look at 18-year-olds now and I laugh. They're so young. But I was told there's only one rule in the owner's suite. You cannot talk to Bud Selig. It's a very simple rule. Don't violate it. If you talk to him, you're kicked out and you're never invited back. And Bud would be furiously smoking cigars and running back and forth and yelling at people. He was this intimidating person. And I was born in Milwaukee. I went to school in New York City, but then went back to college in Wisconsin. And Bud Selig was this figure. I just revered him. And I remember when I became president of the Marlins and spent all these games in the owner's suite, I remember saying to myself, I'm never going to be that. I don't want to be unapproachable. I don't want to be as wear the wins and losses on my head. And I think PJ Loyello is here. He is here, who worked with me for 18 amazing years as really my consigliere, really the person who took care of me when I needed taken care of, to say the least. And we created an atmosphere where it would not be hard for anyone to enter into it. I didn't want people to feel intimidated by the owner's suite. When I walked in as a part of baseball and I saw Henry Aaron, he talked to me, and make no mistake, he talked to me because I was the president of a team. I didn't go up to him as a fan or someone bothering him or someone wanting to sign something. I just sort of went up to him, introduced myself, and I got to do that many times. He never once told me, because we never had a deep enough conversation, I only heard it from others, this true story of what went on during his home run chase. And the true story is far less talked about, but equally as important, if not more so. And I'm ignoring Barry Bonds, I'm ignoring steroids, I'm ignoring all of that for now. I'm referring solely to the reality of what Hank Aaron had to go through. And it's mind-boggling to me because I didn't have to go through any of that. The worst I ever had was being called short and being told I talk too much, or me being told that I didn't belong in this suite or in that suite. Stay to yourself. I told the people, I said last week on a show, the first money I ever made was being paid not to talk. True story. My mother and stepfather paid me actual money to not talk at the dinner table. It was the easiest money I ever made. Didn't want to tell them what I was doing anyway. Yet, didn't go to class today. Do you know that Dusty Baker, the erstwhile manager of the Astros and the Giants, the Cubs, Dusty Baker is one of the great reasons we have this ring. It's true. We beat his Cubs in 2003 because he overworked his pitching staff. The Bartman game, but that was really a Mark Pryor over-pitching game. That's for sure. And Dusty Baker was a teammate. And there was a lot going on at Fulton County Stadium. Eddie Matthews was the manager back then. Richard Nixon was the president, and Bowie Kuhn was the commissioner of baseball. Do you know that right now at the Braves game, Commissioner Rob Manfred is there for a pregame celebration? But when Hank Aaron hit the home run, Commissioner Kuhn was not there because he was fighting with the Braves, and the Braves were fighting with him because a dear, dear man named Bill Bartholomew, who was, rest in peace, I loved him so much. I have a thing about grandparents. They're so comforting. Bill Bartholomew was always very comforting to me, telling me, I think he met 7 of the 9 commissioners. I think he died when he was, in Judaism, I'm Jewish. They always say, may you live to 120. I think he may have, actually. And he was the owner of the Braves. And Hank Aaron hit the tying home run when the season started and didn't want Aaron to play on the road. He wanted Aaron to play only at home to break the record at home. And it got me thinking because the commissioner was angry and said, you've got to play him. And Bill said, no, I'm going to wait till he gets home. He gets home, Aaron hits a home run. And the rest is history. I'm going to get to the serious stuff in a moment. But the decision to not play your best player on the road got me thinking because I've had opportunities during my 18 years to think about that reality, to think about what it is. Do you ever hold out your player? And I was thinking back to 2002 when we had a hitting streak going with a second baseman named Luis Castillo. And not quite as well known to you as maybe your second baseman, Dan Uggla, who may be here also. Is he? Danny Uggla. He's going to come on stage later. Yes, he is. Do I have some Uggla stories? Oy, do I ever. So Luis Castillo was in the middle of a hitting streak, and he didn't have a hit, and he was on deck. Tim Raines was at the plate. Tim Raines had a chance to win a game, and if he won the game, Luis Castillo would not get another at-bat. And there was a conversation that was had, and the conversation was, get word to Raines that we win the game. We win the game. The game is what matters. As much as we were marketing this hitting streak, we had giveaways and we had dreams of DiMaggio. We had thoughts because Castillo was a scrap hitter. He could lay down a bunt. He's the type of guy who could actually maybe get above 50, which would be insane. 56 unheard of. 57. We're famous. And it was our first year in Florida after that crazy franchise swap in 2002. And we were just looking to do anything in a market that was about to be contracted. So we got word to Tim Raines. Raines hits a sacrifice fly, I think, PJ, and the game ends, and we win. And Luis Castillo's hitting streak ended with him on the on-deck circle. And I started thinking all of these years, would I do that again? How do I feel about that? And I was always brought back to the main principle of team sports. The main principle of team sports is to win. That's it. Individual records are nice. You can celebrate them. You can put them in the media guide. You can do presentations on the field. But there's no flags. There's no banners. There's no rings for anything individual in our sport. It's all about team accomplishment. And I don't ever want to put the individual ahead of the team. So I wish, it's one of those things, I wish I'd spoken to Bill and I wish I'd known this when I knew him And now I can't talk to anyone about it, but I wish I understood what was in his mind. I understand why the commissioner was so upset. You want your product. It's the beginning of load management is really, if you think about it, and the commissioner didn't want any part of it. So that was one thing that was happening inside. The second thing were the death threats. Far more serious, not too jocular. When you are dealing, Hank Aaron, actual, real death threats. People actually angry that he would break a record held by Babe Ruth. For the life of me, and I am potentially the wrong person to say this and understand it, and Coca, he's not here, so sorry, Coca. I can talk about it, and I can tell you how I feel. I can't know what it is to be in the shoes, obviously. But I can be empathetic, which is not a quality that I have an abundance of, and I'm working on, and you can work on things no matter how old you get. I wonder how it is that he could compartmentalize in a way that I think I can, except he had to compartmentalize real stuff. My compartmentalization is wins and losses, or in my earlier life, did a stock go up and down, or did someone buy a newspaper? Is someone buying a ticket? How many downloads? What's my ranking? And then going into a show and not focusing on it and giving your best effort to do your best to perform no matter what. And that's what I'm dealing with versus what Henry Aaron was dealing with. It's not, you cannot compare it. You cannot even and should not even talk about it in the same sentence. But what happens is if you don't talk about it in the same sentence, then nobody talks about it. And that's what happened with Hank Aaron. Nobody is talking about what he went through and why it happened and what made it happen. Dusty Baker had a quote, "We were scared to death." He's talking about that day, that game, because a real death threat came in that was specific. I will be in a red coat and I am going to kill him. We were scared to death. Me and Ralph, talking about his teammate, couldn't even watch the game. We kept looking for the guy in the red coat the whole game. Hank acted like it didn't bother him, but I know there was pain, a lot of pain. Can you imagine what it is to be that? Can you imagine what it is to perform at a level in your job? Just picture what you all do for a living. Now imagine the media scrutiny. Now imagine racist, supremacists. Just imagine. I cannot. So right now, the Braves celebrated him in their new park. That's giving them a lot of revenue, enabling them to do a lot of interesting stuff. I want to talk about the Braves for a minute. It's fun to talk about the Braves. I'm sorry. Time out. The guy doing the tour for me, he is the manager for Max Weinberg, who is the drummer for the E Street Band. And he is an amazing manager, an amazing guy. I love you, Mark. I love you, man. But I don't think he knew that he was putting me in all NL East cities to start the tour. For some reason, he didn't quite focus on that fact. Started in Philly, now in Atlanta. So I said to Philly, I don't really love Philly. It wasn't the perfect way to start, but it worked. So Atlanta, I don't love it. And the reason I don't love it is you guys are always so good. It was always such a problem to play against the Braves. And that chop, forget the racial implications of it. It is we're going to edit that out. I'll tell you right now. It is the single most triggering, annoying sound. And I'm not talking about what it represents. I'm talking about what it meant to us as a team. We would want to do well in Atlanta just to not hear it. Not to win the game, not to have a good record, because it was so annoying to hear. And the fans would always do it. Now, people in Atlanta may think that it's always been butterflies and unicorns here, but there were times in Atlanta when your crowds were like Oakland's or like Florida's. You may not remember that. You may all be too young. And if not, I'm going to go with that because it's important for sponsors that the demographics of the show go down. So as far as I'm concerned, all of you are in your 30s and 50% of you are women. And that's our story, and we're sticking to it. So the chop is something that always bothered me because your team has always been good. And now, recently, they've done something that I liken to Moneyball. The reason why Moneyball was interesting, other than the movie, which is not reality at all, so I only call it Moneyball to give you a frame of reference for what I'm talking about. What I'm really referring to is trying to find players who outperform their contracts. It's really that. That's all it was. And Billy Beane looks nothing like Brad Pitt at all. And the fact is that that whole movie didn't mention that great rotation of Mulder, Hudson, Zito. It didn't mention Miguel Tejada, the MVP. There was a whole lot of stuff. It wasn't like Hatterberg, hey, I'm the best player on the team. We're going to win games. That's a little too inside baseball. Sorry. So the reason why Moneyball was interesting is when you do something that your competitors don't do and you can gain an advantage, that is a positive. If everyone is doing the same thing, then there's no incremental advantage. So when MLB, for example, banned the shift last year, the shift is a defensive alignment that's not allowed, where certain players can play. There can be like 4 people, so a ground ball to the right side can be, fielded by the third baseman who's playing short right field. It's absurd. But it was really cool when only a couple teams were doing it. And I remember our infield coach was like, we're good. We don't need to do that. And I said, you're right. Screw that trend. And then all of a sudden I was like, hey, we should do that trend. And then everybody was doing it. So MLB said, what's the difference? And they're right. So in your business, it's the same thing. In your life, it's the same thing. The only way to make incremental progress is to try things differently. Because doing the same thing over and over again, that could keep you where you are. But if you're not growing, you're shrinking. There is no stagnation in the business world. There's no stagnation in the sports world. Don't believe an owner or a team president or a GM, hey, we like where we are. 18 years, never heard a GM say that. I've never said it. I've never liked where I am. Win the World Series. We had a meeting. There was a parade the next day. We had 2 days later, we had stadium meetings trying to build a ballpark, and we immediately started working on the 04 team because we wanted to repeat. So either you're getting better or you're getting worse. Don't ever stay the same. It's like the definition of mediocrity. And what the Braves did many years ago is they said, we have an idea. Let's take some Liberty Media money. That's the owner. What's the face of the ownership in Atlanta? Who do you associate as the owner of the Braves? Ted Turner is not the owner of the Braves. Wow, does he have good PR? That's the ultimate. Limited partners, side note, Coca. There are limited partners of teams who go to cocktail parties for the sole purpose of saying they own a team. And one time I was at a party when someone came up to me in Florida and I said, hi, nice to see you, nice to see you. Oh, what do you do? It's such a ridiculous thing. Second side story, I'm going to need your help to get back here. When I worked in France, there were 2 things that were very important when you work in France. Number 1, you don't ask somebody how many cigarettes they smoke per day because they love to smoke and they don't want to hear about it. Number 2, welcome to Live, nothing personal. I have no idea what number 2 is. I don't even know what we were talking about. The limited partner. Thank you. God, it's so good. Here's what happened. I don't remember what happened in France, but it related to this story. But in Miami, the guy said, hey, I own the Marlins. And it wasn't Jeffrey Loria. And it wasn't anyone I recognized. And so I just said, that's so cool. Because I'm not going to be that guy. Because I want him to go home thinking, oh, there's another guy I fooled. It's way cooler, isn't it? Like I could have said, no, I'm the president. You're not the owner. Like, what are you talking about? But why make someone feel badly? I'd rather do the other way. I'd rather him go home and sort of do a little peacock action. and let the next guy tell him. Like, give him the delusion for another day or another year, whatever it is. It's very bizarre to be a limited partner of a team. It's extremely limiting. You don't get anything, which is why all my limited partners always sued me. Never gave them anything. Never lost a lawsuit either. Read RTFC. Read the frickin' contract. I've said that to players before. They don't even read their contracts. Isn't that amazing? Can you imagine signing a contract and, oh, I was supposed to give you my list of no-trade teams by that date? Yeah. Why didn't you tell me? Not my job. That's your agent's job. I'm going to fire my agent. Don't care. Are you going to trade me? Yes. That's a real conversation that took place right before a grievance. Danny Uggla. God, did we do stuff with you, Danny Uggla? You know what? I got to bring him on stage. Come here, Danny Uggla. Come on. I'm going to tell you the story of Uggla, which is an amazing story. I even took some notes, which I can't even find, but I'm going to get to them. Ready, Danny? I have some things about you that are really cool. One, he was third in Rookie of the Year in 2006. Top 5, Dan Uggla. Top 5. Oh, yes. Adjust the microphone. I think it was set for Juju. Put it down.
Definitely not me. There we go.
Hi, Dan. You look good. You can still play.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Appreciate it. Trying to keep up with you, bud.
That's the new water.
It's okay.
I took the label off. Why would you put labeled water on a table when they didn't pay? 30 home runs in 5 consecutive seasons, which is pretty amazing. Do you know that he was an all-star the year he was a Rule 5 pick? That doesn't happen, ever. And do you know that he has the last home run in Shea Stadium? Ever. How cool is that? Do you remember that? That was a hell of a game. We beat him.
I know.
We beat them that day. We shut down Shea.
Yep, that's my only home run in Shea Stadium, ironically enough.
Is it really?
Yeah, I was horrible in Shea Stadium.
Did you have home runs in City Field?
I did a little better in that one.
You did?
Yeah.
I want to give you the story of Uggla, and then I got a few questions for him that I want him to address. The reason why he was a Marlin is he was something called the Rule 5 pick, which means he was a member of another organization, the Arizona Diamondbacks, and they didn't protect him. So picture it like an expansion draft. And we saw it, and our GM came into my office and said, hey, we're going to Rule 5 this guy, Dan Uggla, and I'd never heard of him. He said, we're going to bring him into camp. We think that his bat can play, and but we have a second baseman. His name was Pokey Reese, and we're just going to bring him in. We'll see what happens. And the cost was, let's say, $50,000. But if you return him, you can return a player. It's so mean. You can actually return a guy after spring training or at any time and give him back to the team and get like $20,000 back, which was awesome. And we get to spring training. I introduced myself, and he was not young. You were 24, 25, 26?
26.
26. And Pokey Reese disappeared from training camp. And I don't mean we released him. He actually left training camp and never came back. That's only happened twice in my career where a player just goes full Forrest Gump and disappears. The GM comes back into my office and says, well, Pokey Reese is gone. Well, go to his apartment. Like, find him. What are you talking about? No, he's gone. I said, well, what are we going to do at second base? Well, why don't we just start Uggla? And I said, well, is he good enough? I mean, I wasn't making the baseball decisions. I just would pretend I was. And they said, well, give him a try. What's the worst that'll happen? That's Dan Uggla. He ended up being an all-star. I want you to tell everybody, please, about that time that we didn't sign you and then traded you. And the reason I'm asking you that is I don't think we've ever told the story, and people don't believe that you and I were actually on the phone at the final second when you rejected our contract and agreed to go to the Braves.
Well, if you guys haven't told it, then, they probably haven't heard. I haven't really talked to anybody about it. It's just one of those things like, first of all, David and I have been so close ever since I made the team in 2006, along with PJ and, a lot of other guys. I don't think it was like the same kind of relationship a lot of players and presidents had, because we were close. And the one thing since day one that David was with me as long, as well as Jeffrey and PJ and, Mike Hill and Larry Beinfest, they're always honest. Up front, they were like brutally honest sometimes, which I appreciated. So
did it hurt your feelings ever? Because most teams are not that way with their players.
No, they're not, because there's a lot of players that are sensitive and, which it's a very, I guess, unpredictable sport. So it's easy to be sensitive, but in my mind, I wasn't really supposed to be there anyways. I was just kind of riding the wave. And so I'm like, you can say to me whatever you want. The more information I had, in my opinion, the better off it made me. So fast forward 5 years, an amazing 5 years.
5 great years.
Like, on and off the field was just amazing with these guys. So it's contract time, getting ready to become a free agent after the 6th year. Got a new stadium coming in. I'm checking out places in South Beach, going to move from Fort Lauderdale down to Brickell area or somewhere down there. And so we start talking negotiations. I was looking for a 5-year deal because I came into the league late. I had one shot at it. They wanted a 4-year deal, David and everybody, which made sense, in
hindsight.
Yeah, in hindsight, right? Yeah, definitely.
I'm happy you got it, by the way. Not from us.
Right.
I missed you, though.
I missed you, too.
We were very honest during this negotiation. Sometimes with players, you can really do the right thing, and I didn't want to do anything to Dan other than tell him the truth. And he knows. We went to arbitration. We fast-forwarded past our arbitration hearing together.
Yes, we did.
Which was he and I sat across the table fighting over his salary. He beat us. I think you got 5.3 instead of 4.4 or something.
I did.
God, did that suck. You had so much bulk. A lot of home runs, a lot of numbers, but we tried to say that you were a negative defensively, and we tried to say that
try to say everything.
You were ugly and a bad husband. I mean, we tried everything, and he beat us. But he fast forward players. What he's not saying, and I'd like you to say, getting free agency is hard.
It is.
Very few people do that.
It is. A lot of people don't realize it takes 6 years. 6 years service time, sometimes 6.5, depending on when you get called up to the big leagues. And you're making the league minimum for the first 3 years, then you can hit arbitration going into your 4th year. And then you have 2 years arbitration, right? 3 years. Yep.
Sometimes 4.
Sometimes 4. So, and then you become a free agent. So 6, possibly 7 years before you become a free agent. And
the average career is 3 years.
To hang around, takes you got to trick them a little bit. So
that's the new word for it.
Make some relationships and trick. Yeah.
You didn't trick. You performed.
I had to. I didn't know how to trick anybody. I wasn't that smart. So we're on the phone. We're going back and forth, and mostly like hit my agent and David and them. And finally, David calls me. He's like, "What can we do? We can't. This is the best we got." I was like, I don't know. I need the 5th year. And he said, Dan, this is when I say this is the best we got, and it was a great offer. It was very hard to turn down because all the relationships and how close him and I were. He's like, we're going to have to trade you. I said, well, David, as bad as it hurts, if it's not, if it's not 5 years, there's no sense in talking about money right now. And he's like, fuck, Danny. Just know that I love you. And then I said, I love you too. And, 99% of my heart felt, I was going to be traded. I was at 1%. I was hoping he was lying to me.
Oh, there was? I never knew that.
That was 1%.
Nope.
I was hoping you were going to be lying to me, But in my heart, I kind of knew it was like kind of a done deal. And sure enough, what was it, about 1 or 2 weeks later?
Yeah, we had a trade ready for the Braves. And we got back Omer Infante and Mike Dunn, who were 2 productive players for us, and got us. And they were on the team in the new stadium. And I knew that there was a 5-year deal waiting for him from your team, from the Braves. And you can say that you didn't know. Are you still going to go with that story?
1,000%.
You're going to stick with that story.
I wasn't traded yet.
No tampering.
0.
Such a liar.
0. That's square.
I mean, really? This is the time. We have a lot of people listening and watching this. So it's okay to say it. Some people will just be listening, so they won't be able to see your face. So you can.
I promise.
Tampered. He ended up getting the 5-year deal, and we stayed in touch, of course. And the thing that I used to love is that people, when we traded them, thought that they would find a level of happiness and with the front offices of their future teams. And it wasn't that way, was it?
Yeah, I mean, we had a good relationship, but it just wasn't, it's kind of like your first love. It's David was like my first front office love, so it's hard to overcome that. But
nothing like your first.
Nothing like your first, but it was and everywhere else I went, it was good. It's just just wasn't David.
You had a full career, and now you're in Atlanta. And I wanted to know why you decided to settle in Atlanta versus Florida versus what were the reasons for being here?
Yeah, it was pretty easy, honestly. I had my first son 3 days before my opening day debut with in the big leagues with the Marlins, and then so we were going back and forth between Tennessee. Throughout that process, we had another daughter, and then my wife and I at the time we got divorced and split up, and I was in Tennessee. They were in Kentucky. Long story short, she remarries a guy from Atlanta right around the time I get traded to Atlanta, and so I'm like, something's got to happen quick here. We got to work out a deal. Agent, get on the horn, and then that's kind of where we stayed. So family.
And how old is your son now?
It just turned 18 3 days ago. Something like that.
So it's strange with kids of players. I started a career with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who now plays for the Blue Jays. He was a little boy when I had his father, Vladdy, in Montreal. We saw Prince Fielder. PJ and I saw Prince Fielder as a kid. I mean, all of these different players. And Cody Ross had some funny kids. Mm-hmm. And your son was... is he still you?
He is. He's got to work out his upper body a little bit more, but his legs are pretty big. But yeah, he was a nice, thick, chunky kid, kind of like his daddy, early on. So
very thick.
Yeah,
I mean, you look like you're in playing shape. I'm blown away by that.
Thank you. If I could still hit, man.
Could you play?
If I could still hit, I could, but I can't hit anymore.
Because there's all the injuries happening.
That's one thing that I was lucky enough to stay healthy. That's kind of was my path to the big league, staying healthy and getting opportunities.
Can we talk about velocity? Because there's a big debate going on right now about pitchers and their injuries. And Spencer Strider, one of your best pitchers, is out. Wait to see is when I tell you something's going to happen. If it does, great. If not, I will revisit it, I promise. Strider's going to be out for the year. That is my wait to see. He is injured, elbow.
I saw that.
And it's a problem. And so Tommy John has become, they're calling it different things. Ohtani doesn't even call it Tommy John, but it was. The reason he doesn't call it Tommy John is after your first Tommy John, it's like 90% recovery. Right. But after your second, it's only 50%. Right. So people don't like saying second. And for Strider, it's not his first. When you're hitting, and these pitchers, the reason is velocity. For me, velocity and spin rate, not pitch clock. Right. Can you talk about velocity that you see in the game today versus back in your day, which I can now say, where if there was one guy in the bullpen blowing 100, it was noteworthy, but most of them were 95, 98. Right. And now you cannot be on AAA at 95, 98.
Right. And I think the last couple of years I had to do a rehab stint back in AAA, and it's just it's night and day. I mean, they're throwing 92, 93, and I was like, whew, man, I got a chance today. But once I think the second half of my career, you could really start to see not just fastballs going 98 to 100 basically with 4 or 5 guys on every staff, especially in the bullpen. And that used to be the gig. Just get the starter out, get to the bullpen. Now then you can kind of get some runs. They'd have like 2 or 3 guys. Normally they could throw mid to upper 90s. That was their closers and setup guys, stuff like that. But yeah. And once you start throwing that hard, the ball starts moving a lot differently. The ball's rising a little bit. If they've got a cutter at 95, 96, it's almost impossible. And now every player pretty much is, 94, 93 is rare to see, on the high side. They're sitting 94, 95, topping out 99, 90.
You're willing to admit that you could only hit mistakes? Most hitters will not.
No, God, no.
You're not willing to admit that?
Harder the better for me. I had to work them to a hitter's count to where they throw a fastball. If I knew it was coming at 98, 99, perfect. As long as they didn't have a changeup.
Can you catch up to 98, 99 today?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Have you gone into a pitching machine? Do you see the pitching machines now? We would get asked by players to buy all sorts of stuff, and we would show them the capital budget, and we'd show them the improvements we were making. And as my career got deeper, the players started wanting all these training stuff. I was like, why can't you be like Uggla and get hammered the night before a game and then hit 3 home runs? Like, right after a game, we go out and we're out till 3 a.m. and we're eating pizza and falafel at 2 a.m. on the street. And by the way, we're great the next day. We had players come to afternoon games in their last night's clothes. That's when we started saying, just bring a change of clothes, just so we can show the media that, hey, we're not coming straight from last night. But now all these players, they have all this equipment they want, these chambers for recovery. You just gripped it and ripped it. And
yeah, it was one of those things that you had to trust yourself. And also the off season, that's kind of what it was. You know, the facilities that these players have in the off season to work out in is just next level. It's just like the clubhouses in the big leagues with getting all that. Where do you think they get the ideas for the pitching machines and the technology?
Is that really from off-season workout places?
Well, I think so. I mean, because those days are. I go there with my kid, my 18-year-old Jackson, and they've got all the pitching machines. They've got.
Are they throwing spin the machines now?
Yeah,
There's now machines where they show
a
picture.
They're spoiled, they're spoiled. But it makes sense. Like, if you got it, you might as well use
it. But are people better hitters today, do you think? Because there's no statistical proof of that.
I think it's different. I was talking about this the other day with somebody else. And I think pitchers nowadays are just pitching their best stuff to each hitter. They're not really like going, oh, he swings at every single changeup thrown to him in the dirt, right? So now they might pay attention to that a little bit, but they're just trying to throw. If they're not a changeup guy, they're not going to throw me changeups. They're going to throw sliders at the top of the zone on purpose, which is they didn't used to do that back in the day.
I hope people are listening to that out there, because what he's talking about is the reason for the pitcher injuries that you're seeing. That pitchers are no longer pitching because velocity is being rewarded, spin rate's being rewarded, and I'm as guilty as anyone, because when we see 100. We get excited. It used to be you needed them to have a secondary pitch.
Yeah.
Like Matt Lindstrom. We acquired a guy named Matt Lindstrom. He was the first guy who ever threw 100. And guess what? He had really nothing secondary, and we were totally fine with it. Now these pitchers throw 100, and they've got 4 different pitches. And it just becomes unmanageable for hitters, but it also becomes unmanageable for their arm because they end up getting hurt. So you're going to hear a lot of debate. Justin Verlander did a 4-minute interview answer about his thoughts on injuries. The union is claiming it's pitch clock. The commissioner is claiming it's velocity and spin, which they have studies, although I could get a study to say that I'm 6'4", so I don't exactly buy anybody's study. The economic development study for Atlanta, that was a good one. Hey, it's going to be amazing, and it certainly has been, hasn't it? It's a real way to think about public money. Do you go to Braves games, Dan?
Yeah, I go to
how many a year?
I go to about 6 to 10 a year.
Is it strange to sit in the stands?
It is. It is very. I mean, although the farther removed I get from it, the more normal it
I still haven't gone to a game since 2017.
Really?
Not one game. Oh. It's too hurtful.
Yeah. Well, you went to a lot of them.
I went to thousands and thousands of games. I could not go to a game the rest of my life, and I went to a lot of games.
It is different, though. You're used to doing parking underneath, walking to the clubhouse. Now you got to call somebody. You got to get the parking pass. It's just different.
Or you could buy a
everybody
normal.
That's the younger kids look at it, they're like, hey, who's that dude right over there? Like, oh, that's Dan. And they're like, oh, really? Oh, man. That's him. And then you get those kind of second glances, like, oh crap, this sucks. So
that's a guy my father used to like.
Right?
You getting that?
Yeah, exactly.
I get that.
Exactly.
Whenever I give speeches, I'd like you to meet my dad. Great.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
That's the way it is.
Get that on college campuses.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I got one last thing for you before I let you go. As you think about your career and as you think about your life, because there's a clear path that happened to you where you were a professional player and you were languishing, and then you were a star at the highest level. And now as a father you have 4 children, 2 for marriage 1, 2 for marriage 2. Would you have your son go into professional baseball? And if so, would you have him do it differently than you did it?
Oh, yes and yes. Yes and yes. Baseball is one of those things that, first of all, both of my sons love. Jackson, he has worked himself into being an okay baseball player into a really good player. He's going to go play in college. And I think he's starting to kind of come into his own a little bit, kind of like I did my senior year. I was like good, okay, and then kind of just kept going upward. And he just loves it, and and the country loves it. The world is starting to love it, and you can make a crap ton of money, so that always helps.
That's the minority, though. Just
right.
For people who think that every player is rich, that is not the case. 99% of players do not make a living playing baseball.
Hence, I said you're able to.
It's very unlikely.
Going to. So
I'm proud of you, Dan. I really am.
Yes. But obviously, back to some of the stories he's told about me, and I know for a fact my son Jackson's got a lot better head on his shoulders than I did. And, if he ever did make it, we'll see what kind of head my son Woods has. He's still 7, so he's
kids are generally what they are when they're 7 and when they're 30.
He's pretty crazy, so
it's a little known fact. Totally true.
But yes, hopefully they'll, I enjoyed everything that I got to do and was able to do, the people that I met, the travel I got to do in my career. And I think the only way that I was able to make it was by living my life the way that I lived it. And
love that.
And I think that's probably, I think everybody that is in that position probably can say the same thing.
Dan Uggla. Thank you, Dan. People have been waiting on the show. I get that a lot. Thank you, Dan. Oh, of course, thank you. People on the show wanted to hear from Dan Uggla, and I never wanted to do a Zoom with him, so I had a dream that we would do a live show in Atlanta and that he would come. My next guest, and I want to get to him, is Juju here? Juju? I hear him. All right, quick background on Le Batard. Dan Le Batard is a show. If you don't watch it, you should. It's good. The person who runs behind the scenes, his name is Juju Gotti. All the social media that you see on all the Le Batard network is done by him. He is a part of the show. He is an important part of the show. And he is gracious enough to be here because he happens to live here. So that was lucky. And he said that he would join. And I had him as a guest once for a Samson sit-down, and the show did not get released. Juju, this show is being released, and I would like you, if you're around. Oh, yeah. God, is it good? We are the oddest of couples, the 5'5", 130-pound white Jewish guy, and Juju, who tells me all the time. I said, how many tickets do you need? He said, gangsters don't like your show.
That was
all right.
A private conversation.
I'll leave you 3.
Allegedly, the gangsters don't like you, but we love you, brother. Salute to Dan Uggla, ladies and gentlemen. Handsome, most handsome man I've ever seen in my damn life. Goodness gracious.
He's the most handsome guy you've ever seen.
An 18-year-old? How the hell does he have an 18-year-old? Salute, brother. Genetics.
Hi, Juju.
What up, my brother?
So
you got that thing on your finger tonight, too. Goodness gracious.
Yes.
Like, I almost didn't know how to get here because I saw it off the highway.
Do you want to try it on?
Of course.
It's a little schwitzy, and it's going to be small. You may want to try your pinky.
You feel me? Ooh, my hand's shaking with it on.
Look at that.
You did, baby.
That's the ring.
You feel me?
You'll get nice. One. You just have to work for a team and win a World Series. It's super hard. People say, why do you wear it? Like, obviously, I have it. Why wouldn't you wear it? There's people who keep their stuff in vaults.
Right.
I don't quite get that.
I wear that shit every day, bro.
Why wouldn't you?
It was me, right.
I mean, if you got them, smoke them. I don't quite understand the theory of accomplishing something and then ignoring it and waiting for the people to deal with it when you're croak.
I'm going to say croak. I ain't heard croak since I was 13. Salute to Matt Santini in the building, you did me?
Hey.
Salute to the mayor, you did.
Yeah, how are you? We did a show together. Thank you for being here. The mayor.
You did me.
Actually, how did you know him?
Come on, man. I'm in the streets. And yeah, come on, big brother. You already know what's going on. I see my boy Yeti Blanc as well. And
Yeti.
You did me?
Hee Haw 3. We have so many guests here. It's outstanding.
Hey, you feel me? Respect all around the building. Salute to everybody in here, man.
Do you have respect because of Hee Haw 3 to Yeti or because of anything else?
Absolutely not because of Hee Haw 3. I don't give a damn about that. That's not my target audience, respectfully. I don't give a damn.
So what is it about Yeti? Yeti's here, if you know Levitard's show.
Yeah.
He's another character in the universe. He
sure.
He does things with Jeremy Taché and Greg Cote.
Right.
Greg Cote.
Right.
If you
and
know,
more
you
than that,
know.
he's also a loving father, great man. During the pandemic, we met up for the first time and had lunch during the pandemic. Like, that was
It doesn't
a time.
seem smart.
I mean, it wasn't smart, but my mental health was taking a dip. And my brother was gracious enough to reach out and say, hey, man, you want to just get out of the house? Because people knew I wasn't getting out at all. And so we had a respectful 6 feet. We didn't get close or anything, but we were just eating and talking outside. It was a wonderful time, brother. I appreciate you, man. I love you
That's
more,
a
brother.
great call out. Thank you,
yeah.
Juju. Can we talk about Levitard for a minute?
Let's talk about his ass.
I want to talk about him. He's not here. He texted me before, hey, what are you doing during the show tonight? He's always very interested in what I'm doing. And I can't figure out why. I think he wants me to maybe succeed, but not a lot. I think that's, if you had to like really analyze him, he likes to analyze everyone else.
Right.
I think if I were to analyze him, he's like, hey, do great, but never as great as I do.
Yeah.
That's my kind of boss. I mean, he's not my boss. I could leave him tomorrow, and I may. But I want to talk about what it is to work with Levitard.
Allegedly on that one. This is
Oh, no, not allegedly. That shit's real.
Yeah, hey.
My contract's over. I got another 11 months to go. My agent called me. This is also true. If you're looking for an agent, I have a really good agent at UTA.
I am looking for an agent for sure.
Are you?
100%.
So he called me before the show and he said, hey, are you sure that you have to stay with Dan? And I said, no. As a matter of fact, I'm not.
Yeah, wait to see.
Wait to see. So tell me about what it is, because your journey goes from fan to insider.
Yeah,
And
for
one
sure.
of the things about doing what you love is that you learn what it is to either love what you do or hate what you do, but either way, you're going to learn about it in a way that you never knew about it. And that's the risk of learning how the sausage is made. And you, my friend, really know how the sausage is made. And I want to understand how you react to that.
Allegedly sausage made. But I think to me, it was a time where I found the Levitard show at like I said, I met my brother Yeti Blanc. I was going through such a dip of confidence, such a dip of just self-value and self-worth. And I was actually outside homeless, learning how to use this ESPN app, and I saw you could watch it. And I was inspired by the brother Greg Cote, believing in newspapers when we in 2000 and 100 million, and the newspapers ain't shit no more, you feel me? So if he can believe in that, it inspired me to believe in my little damn self a little bit more, you did me? And so that relationship snowballed into where I am today, and I'm extremely grateful for it, every step of it.
So I think that you're underselling, and I want to tell my audience who may not be familiar, is that you do about the work of 12 people, which is very much the way Meadowlark is. They underpay you and ask you to do way too much. And then at the end of the year...
Allegedly.
Listen, here's the difference between me and Juju. I mean, other than what you can see, is that I can tell you, and he's going to keep saying allegedly. So here's the game we're going to play.
And a couple $1 million.
Whenever you hear allegedly, just know that I'm telling the truth. So Juju does these jobs, and too often it's thankless. And I wanted to thank you for what you do, because it helps the entire company. It helps all of the shows be the best they can be.
Thank you.
But one thing that we don't do enough of is give you the support to do your job better, and it's not you. It's the same thing with many of the employees, and it happens in myriad businesses. So it's not just in media, it's in corporate, it's in the baseball world, it's on Wall Street, it's wherever you are. It's making people feel wanted, needed, and appreciated when they've got bosses who are very much bottom line oriented.
Right.
And whether it's money or downloads or sponsors, and you navigate it brilliantly, Juju.
Yeah, I
You
appreciate
really
it,
do.
brother. I appreciate you, man. Hello.
There's people who love you, which is they really do love you.
I appreciate the kind words. I finally got help nowadays. We finally hired some people to help out. And so my brother Ryan Cortez, oh my goodness, he's a great guy and a great help as well. So salute to him as well.
Okay. I don't really want to salute Ryan Cortez, but I could if you want me to.
Yeah, we always keep salute on my brother.
Does he take your workload down?
For sure. He allows, on the days that I'm on the show within the parameters, he helps out with the clipping stuff. So some of the times, if you ever see somebody quote something that I said on the show, I would never do that. Like, you know what I mean? People be like, oh, you clip this and you post yourself, that's third person lame. Never, not one time. So my brother always show love and promotes me more than I would promote myself.
My entire Twitter account must be third person lame then. That's all I do.
Yeah.
I thought you're supposed to do that.
You are, but I'm still working on the belief and the confidence in myself that I'm striving to get to.
You're good. People want to know what you have to say. They're interested. That's the thing about having a microphone. It's such a responsibility. People downplay it, and I get it. I get that it seems as though what we do is easy, and I'm certainly not trying to tell you what we do. We deserve flowers. But having a callback, having a microphone, the danger of it is that people will listen. Yeah. I've always looked at it that way. Yeah. I never thought that it was dangerous to speak to nobody. But when you're speaking to tons of people, like millions of people, who are deciding maybe what they do based on what you say, or they're deciding what to think based on what you think about that, and then realize that that's being a parent.
Right.
So people don't take it seriously like anyone can have kids or people are parents. You don't realize that kids are looking to you, or a teacher or a public servant. Leaders, we're talking about leaders. And Juju, as someone who may not recognize you're a leader, I want to know your style because you do lead people now.
Yeah, I appreciate it. My style has just been keeping it real, like even to a fault at times. You know, like a situation we had on camera about in December where we was talking about the merch store, and I was like, bop, bop, bop. Now I don't want to hear that shit, Nick. You know what I mean? Like, nah. But that shit
that
snowballed.
Wasn't rehearsed,
right? It wasn't, but it was real, and it was like. I don't know how to be other than real. Like everybody else on the show, salute to everybody, but they have gotten comfortable within their fakeness. And I just got to keep it real every day. So I feel like me being real is just the secret to whatever the hell going on.
That's your secret sauce, is you're real?
Yeah. And I want to also, too, but take responsibility for me saying that to you on camera. It wasn't anything you did wrong. It was contracts and all of that stuff I was afraid of. I was around the renegotiation time, and I guess it was pretty much, you know what I mean?
It's nothing personal.
Oh,
that was your cue. You're supposed to say, "Hey, David, it's nothing personal."
But I didn't know what the hell I was looking at live. Like, am I saying something wrong?
Okay, edit it out.
I was scared as hell.
4869. Cue the apology. I'm going to show the card. Let's see how it goes. Ready?
And really, it was really on me for real. Like, I actually accept responsibility. And I always say to my girl and everything at the house, it's always nothing personal when we have a couple of disagreements. So, salute to you, brother.
Thank you, Juju. I'm honored. It's a pretty amazing gift to meet people who are not like you. Many people decide they only want to be around people who are like them. I find that to be boring. I find it when you're in a room and it's totally homogenous, people get comfortable, I get uncomfortable. I want to learn. I want to understand. I want to know my blind spots. And Juju is really good at pointing them out to me and others. And that is to his credit, because how else is there growth and maturation without information?
Yes, sir.
And so many people in this world, Juju, and there's sadly nothing you can do about it. So many people just don't care. They're not interested. They're good in their square block.
Right.
They're good with all the people that look like them.
Right. I think we have to start doing this more. We have to start teaching our friends and our coworkers and our loved ones how to treat us, because we go into these situations thinking like, okay, you better treat me right or I'm going to be mad at you, or you better treat me how I want to be treated, or I'm going to hold a grudge. Brother, we're going to make mistakes along the way, but it's up to you to show that patience with people who you call friend. Like I always say, if you want to see where you stand with a person, be a burden to that person. and you will realize right how much that person don't give a damn about what the hell you got going on. But a lot of times, sometimes, rare, when you make a misstep, you have someone on the other side that's patient with you and willing to show you, no, not like this. Treat me like this. This is how I prefer to be treated. And me and you have had that kind of relationship, and I appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
Yes,
I do feel you. I can't say that, though. I feel you. Like, I think people would be like, dude, you're Jewish. Like, you can't talk that way.
You can
but
talk
I do.
that way.
How about just this? I love you. I can say that.
Yes, sir.
Anyone
I love you
can
too,
say
brother.
that. You know how
Yes,
else
sir.
you can learn who your friends are? You can get fired by Derek Jeter. That's another way to do it. Everybody's texting you one day, and the next day, crickets. Nothing. PJ's here. He stood the test of time. Uggla. It's a coincidence that they're both in Atlanta.
Man.
It's amazing. There's a few. Conine. Not many. People within baseball, they think you're friends. Here's the thing about a work atmosphere that I hope you won't learn one day, but you will, because I promise. You think everyone, they're your work friends or your work husband, your work wife. And then when you stop working there, 98% of them disappear. So therefore, it is not smart to ignore your family, which I did for so many years, much to my almost 80% chagrin. And that's an honest statement. 80% of me says people are saying, would you do it differently? No. Does that make me bad? I'm maybe? Allegedly? You know what the thing is? Faced with a set of decisions, you can only go with what you know at the time.
Yes, sir.
How can you go with where you are 10, 15, 20 years later?
Right.
Do you feel like you do the same thing now as you did 15 years ago?
Absolutely not. I would change the world by now. Oh my God. If I could go back one time, I think I would be like bigger than Michael Jackson and Elon Musk put together.
I'm trying to imagine Michael Jackson and Elon Musk together. It's the same color, so I guess that works. But
allegedly.
Other than that,
Allegedly.
I don't. It's not. Again, there's allegedly. Did you see Michael Jackson? Which part of Michael
comment.
Jackson? Do you have the voice?
It's just a metaphor for how amazing, if I could go back and change things, I would do the past. Like, I watch a lot of movies where people go back in the past. I'm going straight to the lottery, man, number one, and I'm going to drop Jay-Z's latest album and everybody else who came out, and the Beatles probably. Like, I'm just dropping albums and just cleaning up. NCAA, I'm bringing it back.
Do you remember in Back to the Future? Did you ever watch
the
those
Snuggie?
trilogies?
Oh my God, I wouldn't be that.
Did you ever see Back to the Future, Juju?
Yeah, Biff's Almanac.
The Almanac.
Yeah.
So that's what you do. You go for the Almanac.
It's great sports bet. I'm betting on Big Brother Dan to make it.
That's a good one.
You got to know.
Can you imagine if gambling were as pervasive when Uggla played?
Wow.
And you could do like prop bets of Uggla hitting home runs? Because
He wouldn't have liked that shit though when it was happening. He would have been mad as hell at us betting on him. Salute.
I think he would have made us a fortune because he would always know before the game. I always knew when Uggla was going to hit a home run, it was directly correlated to his hangover.
Damn.
Directly. Like the worst shape he was in, he was dialed in. So I'd have to go to the clubhouse. Dan, how many fingers do I have up? 1. All right. I'll take the over half a hit today.
Nice.
That's true. That is true. All right. Tell me, Levitard, the show. The evolution of the show.
Yeah.
Last thing. If you were the steward of the show by yourself, where you could change something or direct it in a certain way where you could then look back after a few years or a few thousand episodes, name me the single, I don't want to hear 5, the number one thing that you would change about the Levitard show. Oh, who said that? Someone in the audience just said, don't fall for it. This is the stuff that Dan loves.
Right.
He
It's
wants
just simple.
to hear this.
Mine is simple and not even going to offend nobody. I would make everybody on the show watch sports. Like, just actually watch sports. Because you can tell nobody on the show watch no damn sport. They get in there and they get mad as hell about what they mad at only. They look into the camera and they, how dare you, Sean Strickland, all this shit. But they just don't be actually showing what they love. So I wish they would show passion about the sports and the teams they love, or recapping the actual game versus how they feel about the politics of those people playing
good.
it.
So good. It's such a good answer. I mean, there can only be one Stu Gatz.
Right.
And that's not an act, folks. He really doesn't watch stuff. And there's a lot of people. One of the things about having a microphone is the thought, and this may happen in your regular life too, that you have to have an opinion about everything. Right. It's the weirdest thing. Can you imagine going through life, not with a microphone, but during the course of your day in the business world or with your family, where you have an opinion about everything? How the hell would you know about everything? And that's what sports media is. Everyone pretending they have an opinion and then pretending they're serious about their opinion.
Right.
And then the show ends and you catch them and they actually don't know shit about shit. It's the strangest thing.
Right. Literally. I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. You feel me? So salute to everybody on the show. You know what I mean? We love them. But yeah, that's what I would change.
This is going to be released this weekend, so you have a few days
yeah,
to prepare everyone.
I'm going down there tomorrow. So.
Are you really?
I ain't scared of them jokers, though.
You should be. Hell yeah. Juju Gotti.
Salute.
How cool is he? I'm so not that cool. I wish I were cooler. I gave a speech the other day and I thought I was really cool and I wasn't. It disappointed me greatly. Top 5 movies. It's review time. Top 5 movies filmed in Atlanta. That's the top 5 for everyone today. Do you know all the Marvel movies were filmed in Atlanta? Very cool. Not in my top 5. Well, Madam Web is now in my top 10,000. Number 5, Robert De Niro, Zac Efron, Dirty Grandpa. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It is funny. Dirty Grandpa, filmed in Atlanta, around Georgia. I like movies like that, and you'll see. Number 4, what's the deal? Can I like a Kevin Spacey movie or not? So I've had this debate. I haven't done it on Nothing Personal, but I'm going to do it right now because it's my show. I'm doing it. Here we go. We've had the art and the artist conversation. Can you separate the art from the artist? What happens when someone's convicted, but then they're not convicted? When they're accused, but then they're not guilty, but then there's a settlement, or is there a settlement? We don't know. It's sealed. How do we ever know? Do you know what's going on? I don't know what's going on. Do I think that it's wrong, what Kevin Spacey did? How do you know when you don't know what he did? But then he's canceled, so you can't watch his movies anymore. But if he did something really bad, I don't want to be associated with that. Do you see the conundrum? The whole principle that started with our forefathers was there for a reason. And people can screw around with the Constitution all they want, but don't. They had a few things, if not everything, right there in the corners. 4 corners. Baby Driver. I love Baby Driver. If you haven't seen it, Ansel Elgort. Is Ansel Elgort the guy who got run over and killed? One of the actors, an actor who I don't think it was him. Can't remember what his name was. Kevin Spacey's in that. Loved it. Baby Driver. Great soundtrack. Number 3, also an Atlanta movie. I've only seen it once, and I will not see it again. It's called Prisoners. Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal. Prisoners is a movie. If you haven't seen it, go watch it immediately. This is when Jessica would be despondent because she's never heard of any of these movies. But believe me, Prisoners is really good, but it's tough. It's a tough watch. Number 2 is Emma Stone, pre-Oscar winner, and Jesse Eisenberg, Zombieland. Woody Harrelson as well. Love Zombieland if you want to laugh. You'll see that there's a lot of comedies. And then number 1 of the top 5 movies filmed in Atlanta, I don't think anyone is going to get it. And it is the most self-serving part of the show in a show that's just about me with my name on it. So this is hard to believe. Three Stooges. Three Stooges is a Farrelly Brothers movie. That's more than the box office that it got. That one clap. The Farrelly Brothers are very talented people. I flew to Atlanta to film a scene of the Three Stooges with Chris. Hold on. I don't want to screw this up. Coca's not here. I'm going to get it right. I wrote it down. Yes, old. Chris Diamantopoulos. God damn it. It's not even close. Sean Hayes and Will Sasso. It's directed by the Farrelly brothers. It's the Three Stooges movie. And if you watch that movie carefully, you'll see this ring in the movie. I gave some money to charity, and one of the things that you could bid on was to be an extra on the Three Stooges. So I said, this is the perfect thing. You get to deduct 50% of the gift, and you get to be in a movie. I'm in. They said, oh, by the way, you have to fly to Atlanta. Great. I'll do it when we're playing the Braves. What could be easier? So I didn't tell them who I was. They were like, oh, it's David Samson. And then the Farrelly brothers, Peter Farrelly, discovered that I was the president of a team. And it is the most bizarre thing to be liked by someone simply for your title. It's so weird because he doesn't know me. I could be a total A-Rod. I mean, it doesn't matter what I could be. It turns out that I was charming, nice, and overwhelmed with my exuberance to be on a movie set for 12 hours, to be in a scene that lasted 10 seconds. It's the greatest use of my time since Survivor. Oh, God. There you go. It's the first one. Thank you so much, Table 4. Not even written down. None of them. This is all off the top of my head. It is true. It did take 12 hours for a 10-second scene. I did 10 takes. Farrelly was so pissed off. It was 1,000 degrees. They have people fanning you. You're schwitzing to no end. Will Sasso, who's a big guy, had his own towel man, like he was a boxer, because they had, for continuity purposes, they couldn't have him melting. And so they had to keep drying him. So it's cut, dry, go, cut. And I'm standing there in the party. And the way you do an extra is you have to look like you're talking, but you can't talk. So I am with this person as an extra. For people listening to this, you don't know what I'm doing. I'm doing nothing. And you're sitting across from someone for hours, and I'm thinking I'm getting somewhere with this extra. I was not, turns out, and I wasn't even old then. 12 hours for 10 seconds. Worst plan ever. Top 5 movies. There they are in Atlanta. All right, I got something else. It's the Masters. Anyone excited about the Masters? It's a big thing in Atlanta. Speaking of racism, best weekend of sports. Are you saying, oh, I didn't know that? An epiphany that the Masters is an exclusive club. That's pretty funny where the line between, I always heard this when I moved to Miami, and I grew up in New York, and then I worked in Montreal. And when I moved to Miami, I was told something that I listened to and paid attention to going forward. And it was, hey, Jews and Cubans are alike. We have the same experience, Cuban mothers and Jewish mothers. When I met Lebatard, he introduced me to his mother, who said, look, it's just like your mother. And Lourdes and Sylvia, the two mothers, are alike, and they're both terrific, amazing women. And it turns out that it is true. So there's another thing in common with the Masters. And Juju and I both would not be allowed to be members of this club. No Jews, no blacks. It was pretty much that simple. And also no women. So they said, hey, let's bring in Condoleezza. We'll kill like 4 birds with one stone, and Sammy Davis Jr. too. That'll get him. Rod Carew. He's a Jew. I learned that in the Adam Sandler song. True story. Can you imagine learning who's Jewish from Adam Sandler's song? It's so ridiculous and so true. Google it. Demographics. When you get traded, you don't automatically get your number. I wanted to end the show with a little bit of business for y'all. The business of numbers. It's the most bizarre thing. Kirk Cousins is your new quarterback here in Atlanta. I think you guys are coming off, 3 7-10 seasons? All excited to have Kirk Cousins, assuming that he's not going to get injured. I like that whenever we acquired anyone. Yeah. Ignore the last 5 years. This is the year that'll be different. The guy strikes out. Is Kirk Cousins a Falcon? Do I have that right? Did he not sign like a long-term deal with 4 years? Too long. Did they put his picture up at the airport? That's the only part of the airport I missed. The Kirk Cousins banner. We would never want to put players on banners anywhere because we didn't keep them long enough. I viewed it as a terrible investment. Hey, how much is it to put a guy like on the side of the garage in Miami? Well, we have guys like to 4 or 5 year deals. Yeah, but they don't have no trade clauses. Don't do it. That's why we'd always do, side note, the promotional calendar that you all have for your team, the promotional calendar is done, but approved by me. And I only put the guys, you can always know who's going to be traded if they're in the early months. That's a little trick. The players who are in the later months, those are the ones who are there. The players in the early months, see you later. Like by July, February, see you later, you're gone. Players would always want to know that. Players, man, you were something, Uggla. You were guilty of that. You were one of the guys who looked at the psych up videos, talked to me about them. Hey, I'm only there for like 5 times. Miguel Cabrera used to say it all the time. Hey, Poppy. Everyone called me Poppy. That was their word for little short Jewish guy president, I guess, is Poppy. That's the best thing I could think of. Poppy, I'm not on the video enough. I would say, Miguel, there's 2,000 people here. Doesn't matter. They didn't care. They count. Players count. They do. They count that stuff. So when you come to a team and you're traded to a team or you sign a free agent deal, there's a negotiation that happens with numbers. Some players have a number that they want. Some players have a number that they've associated with themselves for their whole career. They've got reasons for it. Some of them are good. Some of them are fine. Doesn't matter to me. I don't have a cough button, and that was a greps. Sorry. That's Yiddish for burp. It's not that easy. It's 6 more minutes. I got to get this in. This episode ends in 6 minutes, folks. And the national championship game starts in 20 minutes. Now, by the time you're listening to this, the game's over. Congratulations to Connecticut as the national champion. Way to repeat. 4-8-9. The national championship game starts in 26 minutes. Congratulations to Purdue. What a fantastic victory. Way to go, Zach Edey, Player of the Year. What a game. Amazing. You're going to hear those both when this show comes out. Although maybe that one he'll edit. So when players come, I want to tell you a funny uniform story. What they do is they have this thing where they talk to the clubby and they get a number. What they don't know is we have the number for the player before the player comes. And there's certain numbers that we will not give to certain players. So when you show up in spring training, you're given number 69, relax and don't spend your per diem. You may not make the team. When you go to spring training, what was your spring training number, Uggla? Hint. When you're given a top 10 number, there's a good chance you're going to make the team. We gave Uggla 6 right from the beginning. Did you even think about the fact that that meant something when you saw that number? God, I love you, man. You should have known. So players want a certain number. It's like asking us where they want to be in a clubhouse. There's players who want certain lockers in a clubhouse, but we assign that. And we assign players to certain areas when we want certain players to mix with other players, when we're trying to interrupt cliques. There's a lot of cliques in a baseball clubhouse. You've got the whites, the blacks, the Latins. You've got some players who can maneuver in between all groups. It is an amazing sort of society that then grows, and there can be togetherness. There can be agreement on music or disagreement. It can take you down, or it can build you up. It's a lot like your community, your neighborhood, assuming you're not homogenous. And so players come in and they want a number. What do you do if the number is assigned to another player? Here's what we do. Depending on how famous the player is and how much we're paying him, we will insist that the current player who has the number of the new player give up his number. And then we will go to the new player, let's say it's Jose Reyes or any player you want, and we will say, all right, you're going to have your number, but there's got to be compensation. And the compensation you may have read about. It can be a watch. Sometimes it can be as much as a car. Sometimes it's just some cash. Sometimes it's a thank you. It's never a thank you. It's always money related. Even when it's like a journeyman pitcher, they get an opportunity to get some money. Kirk Cousins comes into Atlanta and he doesn't have his number. And it's the first time that he's going to change the number in his career. And he actually was willing to tell you why. And I want to get the quote exactly right. He wanted to switch with one of your other players, Kyle Pitts. Is that his name? Can't find the card. This is just top 5 movies. Cool Hand Luke was very good. I just saw that on the internet, Cool Hand Luke. There was a picture of Paul Newman. I like his sauce. So Kyle, thank you. For those of you watching at home, you know. Kyle Pitts, he did not do the deal because, not that he wasn't willing, the reason is that the NFL got involved. And the NFL said, we will allow you to make the change. However, you're going to have to write us a check. And the reason why the NFL said there would have to be a check written is because there were a bunch of jerseys with the name Pitts on it and that particular number. And that is a cost of doing business. Those jerseys would then become useless. And it reminded me of when Giancarlo Stanton changed his name. He used to be Mike Stanton. One day he walks into spring training and he says, hey, I'm now Giancarlo. And I said, hi, I'm Peter. Like, and he's like, I just want to be known as Giancarlo. Well, why? And he said, I love Giancarlo, still in touch. He hit that grand slam last night. Yes, we taped this on April 8th in Atlanta. And he said, it's just a cooler name. There's a lot of Mikes. And Giancarlo is my name. I said, but everyone's going to mispronounce it. He said, but people who know me will just call me G. And so people call him G. And we had to call baseball before he could change his name because there were baseball cards out there and there's a licensing deal with Topps where they make cards that say Mike Stanton. And so in order for him to change his name, new cards have to be done. So the question is, what would be that cost? And we paid it. Your team decided not to pay it. The cost was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the cost was to make the NFL whole for the jerseys that were already printed. And Kirk Cousins, who is the champion, he's made a lot of money in his career, but the way rich people stay rich is that they don't waste money. And he said, I'm not sure why I would say this big number. He said, I don't want to write that check. I'm good. It was several $100,000. So I was like, I'm good with 18. And Kylie's like, I'm good with 8. So that is the reason why Kirk Cousins did not get his number. So my query to you, as you are thinking about this episode and thinking about this show and thinking about what we are about, is there a number? And if so, what is the number? And it's not just to do something crazy like letting someone have sex with your wife, like that movie with Robert Redford. I'm talking about on a daily basis. What's your number? And when you think about it, that's the way to have self-actualization. That's the way that you will know whether in your mind it's just business or whether it's nothing personal. Thank you. That is the show. You have 19 minutes to get to the championship game. I really appreciate that you guys came out. It really is meaningful. We're going to be doing these tours in other cities. We're going to come back to Atlanta because it's fun here. I really like it. Thanks for making the effort on a Monday night. That really is cool. This episode will be released, Coca told me, on Saturday, I believe, and it'll be out as audio, it'll be out as video, and I really appreciate that you all took the time. Thank you so much.